pain was to try and make it stop, but it didn't. After an hour of crying, the pain finally subsided. I was falling in and out if conscious the whole way though, and sometimes when it hurt more than ever, even squeezed that person's hand so hard that I would have surely stopped their circulation, but they still held on to me. After catching my breath, I attempted to sit up, but Alpha ordered me not to because I was still weak. Dr. Goodwin came in short after and checked me and the babies. Thank heavens they were both okay now. I thought they would have been affected at least, but Dr. Goodwin said the pain had only affected me, which I was very thankful for. Finally, she left me alone with Alpha and Stella. Grace, Hayden, and Allison had left along with Doctor when Alpha said he needed to speak to me. "What is it?" I whispered, looking up at them since they were both standing right in front of me. I pulled up my quilt higher, as I was slightly cold. Apparently someone had moved me when I was in pain and tucked me under the quilt. I already knew it was bad news, since Alpha stood there with a grim expression and Stella with eyes full of sympathy. I just wanted to know what it was already. "Honey, please don't cry after this. It's going to hurt knowing it. But please don't be upset. You have to stay strong for your babies," Stella said. I could see tears of her own forming one. "Just please." "Tell me what it is," I whispered. I was tired of them speaking in riddles and just wanted to know what it was. "Your mate. He's marked someone else," Henry blurted. I froze. Chapter 9. I blinked my eyes twice before my tears spilled. My mate had marked someone else. He was supposed to be the person who loved me more than anything in the world. He was supposed to be the person who'd do anything for me. He was the person who I'd have our babies with and spend the rest of my life with. But he wasn't. My wolf started to howl in pain. She can't accept the fact that our mate has marked someone else. Actually, it was hard for both of us to accept. I dried my eyes the back of my hand and stood up. Right now, I felt completely numb. I walked outside to my balcony and sat there underneath the colourful sky. It was truly a beautiful sight, though I couldn't bring myself to appreciate the scenery or anything anymore for that matter. Alpha and Stella must have understood that I wanted to be left alone because they didn't follow me. I brought my knees to my chest and wrapped my arms around it. The gentle wind blew my hair softly as I closed my eyes. If I thought my life was hard before, then I must be really weak. My wolf was crushed after she'd learned what had really happened, but I think she knew from before. I knew that I had never been good enough for any of my family, but I didn't think I was so bad that life itself hated me and treated me like this. But right now, all I had to concentrate on doing was looking after my babies and giving them the best possible lifestyle I possibly could. Few days had already passed since I found out that my mate had marked someone else. For the pack's sake, I wished that it wasn't Eva. She would have been a terrible Luna, and most people knew that, but they were too scared to ever say it to her face. Since then, I had gotten better. Sure, there was that horrible pain every time he mated with her, but it wasn't as bad now as our bond was nearly broken. It was relatively faint and didn't pain me as much as it used to. That morning, after I found out about him, I woke up in an empty bed and later found out that Alpha came to check on me and found me sleeping on the cool ground of my balcony. So he picked me up and settled me onto the bed, as it was bad for the babies and me. Somehow, the pack found out what Howard had done to me and were giving me sympathetic glances every time they saw me. And that was except Grace. She never showed me any pity at all, but instead tried to take my mind off things, which I was extremely glad for. I hate it when people sent me looks of pity. It made me feel weak and helpless. But Grace, she cheered me up throughout the day and helped me forget about everything. We went shopping for me and the babies, had manicures and pedicures, and even went to the cinema. Of course, she paid. She was the best friend anyone could ever have. The next couple of days went pretty well. We both managed to do some more shopping for the babies, so now they have almost everything they'll need for the first few months. I've been taking online classes since I can't go to school, or I didn't want to. I guess I'm too scared that I'll just get bullied again. And that would put stress on me, hence affecting the babies. Well, that was just one of my excuses anyways when Alpha told me I had to go to school for the first 2 months, but after a lot of persuading, he finally gave in. Today was finally the day of the BBQ, and when I would be officially introduced to the rest of the pack. Honestly, I was both excited and a little nervous. I had met some of them, who lived in the pack house, but not all as they lived in their own separate homes. I was scared that I wasn't going to be accepted and rejected like I had been for most of my life. But then again, I was close to Alpha and Stella and Grace, as well as Hayden and Allison. I knew they were all my real family. Stella was like the motherly figure I never really had, and the rest of them were like the siblings I wished for in my dreams. I sighed and opened my eyes. My bump had gotten a few centimeters bigger in the last few days. Grace has been forcing me to measure my waist every single day to make sure that I was the right size. It was slightly over the top, but I couldn't blame her for trying to make sure that my babies and I were in the perfect condition. Using my hands, I pushed myself up from my laying position and sat up on the bed. I rubbed my eyes and made my way to my bathroom. I took a quick shower, scrubbing myself with strawberry shower gel and massaging my scalp with mango and coconut shampoo. I relaxed and calmed down a bit. I quickly got dressed in a simple white and pink stripped tank dress, which was stretchy enough to cover my stomach. I put my hair in a simple bun and tied a pink bandana into a headband with a bow on the side. I rubbed on sun cream on my legs, arms, face, and anywhere else where skin was visible. Lastly, I slipped on my white Converses with ankle socks. It was already afternoon right now, as I woke up quite late and took about an hour to get ready, so I could hear most people coming in already. Alpha decided to have a BBQ early in the afternoon, then a bonfire later on, since they hardly had a day where the whole pack met up and had fun, and now that they did, he wanted to make sure they spent a lot of time together enjoying themselves. I exited my bedroom and noticed that there were quite a lot of people present already. As I made my way down the stairs, careful to stick to the banister as instructed, no, more like demanded, by Stella, I noticed a couple of banners which read, "Welcome to the family, Caroline." My heart swelled up from all the love I received from these people, whom I barely knew for a couple of months, but they were still more loving than my family had ever been in my entire life. I blinked back the tears of joy, and as I stepped foot on the ground, someone pulled me into a very tight hug. "You look beautiful," Grace screamed excitedly, receiving a few amusing looks from the people around. People, she said loud enough to gain their attention. She stood on the stairs so everyone could see her and started. "This right here is my best friend Caroline, but everyone calls her Caroline. Loads of you probably know her, but those who don't, here she is, an amazing person. She's pregnant, so don't hurt her or make her do any jobs at all. And if any of you hurt her or her babies, then I'll chop your balls off and feed them to seagulls outside. And if you're a girl, which then means that you obviously don't have balls, then I'll make sure you'll need a plastic surgery to rearrange what's left of her face. Understood?" I blushed bright red and looked at the ground at my shoes as if they were the most fascinating thing on earth right now. I wasn't really used to good attention, so I didn't exactly know how to act, while Grace stood there, looking as amazing and powerful as ever. There were a couple of agreements or nods and a few mumbles. Finally getting the reaction she wanted, she grinned, "Kushti." I chuckled along with few of the other pack members. "I see you've already introduced Caroline to the pack, huh?" smirked Alpha. "She sure has, Alpha," I muttered, glancing around to see the curious stares of many. "Caroline, for the 100th time, call me Henry," he said. "I'm sorry, we were never allowed to call my old Alpha by his name," I muttered. "Don't worry about it, just call me Henry, okay?" "I'm not that old," he laughed. I chuckled, then nodded. After talking for about a few minutes, he left to go find Stella while Grace continued speaking at 100 miles per hour. Soon, few other new mothers came up to me and gave me advice on which were the best nappies to use or the best milk to use after they stopped breastfeeding. Grace soon left, saying that all these things were, and I quote, "boring her death." It was nice to see they were truly a nice bunch of people and very accepting. Soon enough, it was the bonfire, and we were all sat outside in front of the fire eating. I had a really bad craving for chocolate cake, so I was having that while the rest of the pack members were eating grilled chicken or salad. The kids were running around, chasing each other. The teenagers, who were a bit younger than me, giggling and gossiping. The teens my age were chatting on their phones or even making out. But all in all, It was a truly happy sight and atmosphere. "Guys, can I have your attention, please?" Henry said from the stage. We all turned to look at him with questioning looks while he just smiled. "Few days ago, I heard this angel with the most beautiful voice sing," he began. We all looked around to see who this person was. "Nope, no clue, and I really want this person to sing for all of us," he continued. "So please come on stage and sing for us, Caro." "What? Me?" Everyone turned to look at me with pleading eyes. "No, Henry, please do not say that. I'm not good at singing at all," I protested. But? He looked at me in curiosity. "Piano is my favorite instrument. If there is a piano here, I would be more than glad to play it for you all." I smiled shyly at him. "There is one." I heard Grace shouting at me while pointing her finger towards a corner on the stage. It was until then that I realized there was a piano indeed. "I didn't even know that, Caroline," Henry said to me with a smile on his face. "So would you like to?" "Surely, with pleasure." I nodded slightly before walking up to the stage. I felt everybody's eyes on me but paid no attention. I took and sat on the stool right in front of the piano. I closed my eyes and started playing one of my favorite compositions, Aria Sul G by Bach. The notes flowed under my fingers as I continued to play. I poured my heart out in the music. When I finished the song, I was met by silence. I opened my eyes and looked at my lap, biting my lip. Suddenly, applause poured through the crowd, and hesitantly, I looked up to see the pack cheering. I smiled and looked up completely now at their smiling faces. I stepped off the stage, and instantly, an older-looking woman came up to me, but she was beautiful, with her long golden hair and baby blue eyes. "Honey, I know you're pregnant, but I want you to work for me at my little cafe. We desperately need someone to attract in more customers, and you are perfect. You're an amazing piano player," she said, all in one breath. Chapter 10. The customers applauded as I finished my second composition. I smiled and waved at the cafe full of customers before stepping off the small stage they made for me. It had been 2 months now since I started working for Piper at her small cafe. Before I came, it was apparently very isolated. But now that I was the live entertainment, many people came to have lunch or breakfast here. And according to Piper, it was all thanks to me. But I knew that really, it was just because of how delicious her food was. I had saved up quite a lot of money and helped the pack towards the bills, even though they had more than enough to pay the bills for the next 50 years for every single pack member. I didn't like sponging off people, and I wanted to earn enough money to move out and buy a little flat for the babies and I. I was due in about a week or so now. I was nearly as big as a whale, or that's what they teased me about. But it was only occasionally, and I knew they were joking, unlike the people back in my old pack, who seemed to think it was funny to make me cry. I have never once cried after my ex-mate marked someone else. I refused to let him make me cry, even if he wasn't here. I've only been smiling or laughing since the pack never let me cry or get emotional. I was proud to be one of them. "Caroline, Caro, are you listening to me on?" I blinked and turned to the source of the voice. Pulling me out of my thoughts was Piper, in her cute pink apron with cupcakes decorating it. Yeah, sorry. What was that?" I asked. "Just saying. Amazing job as usual." "There were more customers today, so thank you for saving my little cafe," she said gratefully. I rolled my eyes at her. "Seriously, Piper, I've told you so many times. It's your amazing cooking that people come here for, not my okay piano playing." "It's not okay piano playing at all. It's amazing piano playing. Actually, I've always been wondering, who is your piano teacher?" "My father taught me to play the piano." "Oh. May I have his name?" "It's Stuart Forrest." "What? Stuart Forrest?" she exclaimed surprisingly. "The greatest modern pianist in the world. You are her daughter." I gazed upon Piper. "Wait, you mean my father? But he never mentioned that to me." "I guess that's because he's a humble person as well," Piper replied. "Anyway, no wonder you could play the piano so well." "Oh, and I'm sorry to remind you of your father's death." I smiled at Piper and said, "It's fine. I'm proud of my father." Well, anyway, someone told me that Alpha's waiting for you. You better go now, she said, and a small smile appeared on her face as she thought of Henry. I chuckled. I'll see you tomorrow then, at 10. Yep, and take care of yourself and those two troublemakers, will ya? I laughed and shook my head. Sure will. As I stepped out the warm cafe, I was attacked by the intense heat of the sun. The joys of living in California, I thought. As usual, parked in front of me was Henry in his white Audi R8. I waved at him before walking to his car, or his most prized possession, as he says. Boys will always be boys, I thought, shaking my head. But I doubt he'd say that after he found his mate. Henry hadn't found his mate yet, even though he was 19 years old now. But I had no doubt that whenever he did find his mate, she would be extremely lucky to have a guy like him. Not only was he very good-looking with his dark brown shaggy hair, light blue eyes, 2 cute dimples on both his cheeks and lean but very muscular body, but he was also a very kind-hearted person. He was generous and amazing with giving advice, which was why he was one of my best friends now. I opened the door and stepped in. Hey, I said as soon as I plopped my butt on the luxurious leather seat of his very expensive car. Hey, how was work? He asked, helping me to buckle my seatbelt around my massive stomach. Good, I'm kinda tired now, so just get me home, I groaned, resting my head back. See, I told you. You don't need to work. We have plenty of money for the pack, he stated. How many times have I told you this? I want to save some money for me and the babies, he interrupted. And you don't want to keep sponging off us and have your own house, blah blah blah. Shush, I muttered, my eyes closing already. You know I'm right, he retorted. I couldn't be bothered to argue back, so I simply closed my eyes and mumbled, whatever. As soon as I closed my eyes, I was engulfed into darkness, with the music playing softly in the background. Flashback. Mum, you're finally home. I squealed once I saw my mum in the kitchen at home. I hadn't seen her in a very long time since she was always out. I took in her appearance, her light brown hair dishevelled, her blood-red lipstick smudged along with the rest of her makeup, and her black tight dress all crumpled up. But still, my mum looked beautiful as always. Unfortunately, she grumbled. I frowned. My mum wasn't happy to see me. I could feel my tears prickling at the back of my eyes but said nothing. I knew already how much of a disappointment I was, thanks to Dad and Rye and the whole of the pack. I was supposed to have shifted on my 15th birthday, but now it was 2 months after it and I still hadn't shifted. So Chris, along with the rest of the pack, made fun of me, saying that I had a dormant wolf. There hadn't been many cases at all where a she-wolf hadn't shifted after the age of 15, but all of them never actually shift at all, ever. So because of that, they all assumed that I was a human and automatically became the weakest link of the pack. I was frowned upon, and I had no one to talk to. They even thought that humans were better than me, even though they hated humans. What are you doing here, you ugly beach? Mum asked, walking over to me. Instantly, I started sweating because I was scared from the punishments I would get. I kept my head low and didn't say anything. I felt cold fingers wrap around my neck and squeeze it. I struggled since I was running out of breath. I moved around and tossed, trying to get her to loosen her grip. I was too weak for her, and I knew that. I did everything but never looked at her face, because I knew that it would piss her off even more. And I knew that if I did piss her off, I would certainly die. Suddenly, I felt myself being lifted off and thrown against the wall. I landed on the ground with a huge thud, and my back against the wall. I could feel myself slipping into darkness. I'd rather kill you, you shameful BTH, my mother said. End of flashback. Caro, are you okay? You've been screaming, I heard a voice ask. I slowly opened my eyes and saw Henry's worried face in front of me. I nodded and rubbed my eyes. I'm fine, I mumbled. Are you sure you're okay? He asked, his face still making the worry. I'm fine, I replied firmly. Anyways, we're home, he said. Wow, already? Gee, I must have been well tired, I muttered before a huge yawn escaped my mouth. Henry chuckled and stepped out of the car. He walked to my side and opened the door. Holding a hand out, he helped pull me out the car. He shut the door behind him, and we continued walking to the pack house, hand in hand. It wasn't really a romantic gesture, just something we naturally did without even thinking. As I took my first step up, I felt wetness run down my legs. I turned to Henry with wide eyes and whispered, knowing that he'd be able to hear me perfectly anyways, "I think my water just broke." Chapter 1. Triple. Ackle. "Aye, Sage," I screamed from that horrible pain. "Breathe in, breathe out," the nurse instructed. "Hold on there, you're nearly there," Stella said softly. I relaxed slightly at the sound of her voice, but with the last bit of energy I had left, I pushed harder. "I am never having kids ever again," I cried. The sounds around me drowned. But then, I heard the most beautiful cry. The cry of my first baby. "One out, one more to go," Stella said with more excitement in her voice. And soon, I heard another beautiful cry. I sighed and relaxed myself completely. I felt someone wiping away the beads of sweat which coated my forehead. I was tired now. Too tired. So I closed my eyes and sleep caught up with me. Hours later, I woke to the most beautiful sound, my babies crying softly. I pushed myself up on the bed and opened my eyes, which took a few seconds to adjust because of the bright lights. "Oh look, Mummy's finally awake," Hoy said. "Where are my babies?" I asked almost immediately. "Don't worry, here they are," someone said from my left. I turned to face then, and saw Henry looking at them with such love in his eyes. He then handed me my babies, who were both so tiny. They looked so fragile, and I was almost scared to touch them. Scared that I would drop them or hurt them. There was one wearing a blue hat, and one was wearing a pink one, and they were both wearing white long-sleeved onesies and wrapped in a bundle in their blankets. Once they were in my arms, they both stopped crying and closed their eyes. It felt weird not having that huge bump on my stomach now that it was flat. I had grown used to bump, and now it not being here felt very strange. "Your son was born first at 3003, and your daughter at 3033, Henry said, with his eyes still on them and a small smile on his face, which showed a little of his dimples. "What are you going to name them?" Grace asked. "I think I'm going to name my daughter Samantha Forrest and my son Terence Forrest," I said proudly. I couldn't still get over the fact that I was now a mother, but I was glad I was. Samantha looked like me with her light brown hair, and though she had the piercing blue eyes of her father. I snorted. Some father he was. Terence, though, had my bluish-greyish eyes, but his father's dark brown hair. Even though he was tiny, you could still tell that he had inherited some features of his father, like his nose and his lips. I spent a few hours holding my babies, but soon I fell asleep to a peaceful night after so long with both my babies. In the morning, I woke up to the sunlight streaming through the blinds. I took this opportunity to look around my private hospital room. It was painted in a light cream color with pictures of babies of the wall. There stood a table next to the bed, which held a vase with beautiful white and pink calla lilies in them, one of my favorite flowers. There were a black leather couch in front of the window. I knew that Henry had arranged this room for me, being the alpha and all. I heard a low knock on the door before it opened. Grace and Stella entered the room looking as gorgeous as usual. "You up, Hon?" Stella asked. "Yep, I'm still a little tired though," I whispered, not wanting to wake my babies up. "Oh, that's normal. Anyways, you've been discharged. Henry took care of all the paperwork yesterday, so it's fine now and you're free to go," Stella said with a huge grin. "Awesome," I grinned back, feeling very happy. It had been 6 months since I gave birth, and I was going back to work. Samantha and Terence had grown up so much now, and they were way mature than a normal human baby would be because of the alpha genes they had in them. Samantha looked like a mini-me, and sometimes we even wore match outfits sometimes, all three of us. Terence, though, looked like his father and even had his dimples, while Samantha had mine. I turned 17 soon after giving birth, and the pack had thrown a massive party for it. It was amazing since I'd forgotten the last time someone even said happy birthdays to me on my birthday before I came here. On the day I returned from hospital, they threw me a surprise party where the babies receive hundreds of gifts from the pack. They had been very helpful to me when I needed a little rest or when I needed to go out a little. They'd always look after the babies because they loved them. The twins had been receiving the attention and love of all the pack members, and to be honest, They loved every single minute of being in the spotlight. They were both adorable, and with one sad look from those beautiful eyes, they could make you do anything they wanted you to do, hence all those toys in their rooms. Samantha, though, was a lot more timid than Terence, who seemed like the typical overprotective brother. Even a blind person would be able to see how much those two loved each other, even if they were so young. "Caroline," exclaimed Piper, once I stepped through the door. "Here. I know. It's been too long," I huffed. "Anyways, how are you? Those babies must be tiring you out, huh?" I laughed. "A little, but they're worth it. I love them to bits." "They are so cute, though," she smiled, thinking of them. "Yeah, they are," I said. "So, off you go to work then. Do you know how many regulars have been asking when you're coming back to work? I've made a massive loss this week, and I hope you can make up for it, you know." I didn't say anything, as I made my way to the stage and took a seat in front of the piano. I closed my eyes and started playing, which was gifted to me by my father. Soon, my shift was over, and I was free to go home. On my birthday, Henry, Grace, Stella, Hayden, and Allison bought me a car by combining their money together, so that meant that I didn't have to wait for Henry to pick me up every day, and besides, he had plenty on packwork to take care of, and he didn't need to be bothering with me every single day. As I entered the backstage, I heard a deep, manly voice say, "That was amazing." I turned around to face him, and was met by the most beautiful light brown eyes ever, which gleamed with amusement. I sniffed the air. Definitely Werewolf, and he had power radiating from him, which made me think he was the next heir to the alpha role, as he wasn't as powerful as a proper alpha yet, but he had more power than a beta would. It was just an instinct thing. This man was sexy. He had the sexy just rolled out of bed, dark brown, longish hair. His skin looked smooth and perfectly tanned. His white V-neck t-shirt clung perfectly onto his well-defined chest and stomach. He had a muscular yet slightly lean body and towered over me with an approximate height of about 6'2". He was wearing light brown chinos and white Vans with the blue plaid shirts, which the sleeves were rolled up to his elbows over his t-shirt. "I'm Randy, and you are?" he asked, still looking at me with amusement in his eyes. That snapped me out of my reverie as I shook my head and answered his question. "I'm Caroline." I checked my phone to check the time, as I was getting very restless and wanted to see my babies already. Having spent most of my time with them, I was feeling very lonely without them by my side, giggling or crying. "Look, I need to get home, but it was nice meeting you," I said, as I gathered my belongings ready to leave. I started going to the door when I noticed he was following me. "Why are you following me?" I asked as I stepped out the cafe and turned to him. "Because if you are, please don't rape, like seriously. I'll shout, and I know karate, so I'll be able to kick your ass if you try anything on me. Take a step closer and I swear to God, I scream so loud that the half the world will hear me." "Okay, so I told a little white lie. I didn't know karate." His chuckle pulled me out my rant, which made me glare at him. "Relax, I'm not going to harm you, I don't need to. Girls are attracted to me like bees are to honey, 'cause I'm so sexy." I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I waited for him to say something, but he didn't. So I asked, "Why are you following me?" "Well, I think you're an amazing pianist, and I think my father would love to sign you. And my father is Max, you know, the record producer. But anyways, I think you are celebrity pianist material, so he would love you sign you, so what do you think?" Chapter 12. Me? A celebrity pianist? I was absolutely gobsmacked that Randy thought that I was good enough to be a pianist. I knew I had to move out sometime soon, as the babies were getting older and being a pianist would be able to bring enough money for the children and me. I didn't even have to think twice before making my decision. Yes, Chris's POV. Come on, man, what are doing here? It's been years since she left, and here you are in her room, still crying. Martin said from the doorway of my baby sister's room. I wiped the stray tear from my cheek and sat up from her bed. Although it has been many years since Caroline left, it hasn't been easy. I miss her more than anything, and I wish I could tell her how sorry I really am. I miss her rare laughs and smiles, her voice, that cute way her nose used to scrunch up when she saw something she didn't like. I miss everything about her. But the worst part has to be not knowing whether she was alive or not. I just wish she would send us a letter or something telling us that she was fine, but to be honest, I don't expect her to. Not after how we treated her. A lot has changed since she left. We now have a Luna, Eva. Although she is a total bitch, but we can't say anything to her. Eva is now pregnant, but she complains about it every single second of her life, telling us how she's rather die than be pregnant again, because apparently she looks too fat and none of her nice clothes fit her anymore. But of course, she meant slutty clothes by that. But I doubt the baby is even Howard's. She's still whoring around like she used to. But Howard is too blinded in love to see that. Sometimes she even checks out guys in front of Howard and he doesn't even notice. But Howard is too desperate to be a father that he silences anyone who even thinks about him not being the father of the unborn baby. Ever since Caroline had left, Howard had turned a lot quieter, only keeping to himself, and when his father started pressuring him to mate. As the pack desperately needed a Luna, he finally mated and marked Eva. He seemed so depressed and hollow, even after his mating, which was very unlike him. But now that Eva is pregnant, after a lot of persuading from his part, he seems to be finally coming out his shell more. Like today, he came up to us and actually started joking around, which he hadn't done it years now. I was happy for him.